Hello friends, and welcome to the Hanged Man in the Moon. I'm going to be doing a walkthrough of these two very small decks, the FF Solessio and the Jeu de Cartes au Portrait de Paris. Both of them are produced by Artisan Tarot, and just full disclosure, I received both of these for review, which I'm very honored to have done. I'm very honored to have received these. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at first the Tarot de Marseille Majors Only deck. And then we're going to do a flip through of the Jeu de Cartes au Portrait de Paris, because this is a playing card deck, and frankly, I am not all that familiar with reading playing cards, but I'm interested in taking a look at this deck with you. So, friends, that's what we're going to do, and if that's something you're interested in, stay tuned. I'll get things set up for the walkthrough of the Trumps deck right away. Here we go. Friends, here we have two decks. On the left, I have my Tarot de Marseille Edition Millennium, which is a mini size, and it was the thing that I have closest to compare with the FF Solessio, because, for one thing, the sizes are similar, and for another thing, I think even though the creators of this deck don't exactly call it a Tarot de Marseille, it's probably going to be more similar to a Type 2 Tarot de Marseille than a Type 1. So I didn't want to pull out my Noblet, or I have another Type 1 smaller deck that I could have used, but I thought a Type 2 would be a better comparison. And so this is the closest thing I've got that might be a good reference for what we're about to look at. Again, this is the FF Solessio Tarocco Piemontese, and it's originally produced in 1869, and probably in Genoa, maybe. Correct me if I'm wrong, but that's what I think. So, the deck from Artisan Tarot, I have not opened the package yet. I'm about to open it right now. It's sealed sort of like a playing card deck might be sealed. There's cellophane here, but there is there it is. There's one of those, like in the old cigarette packs. Yeah, the little tab to pull open the deck. Let's see how well this works. There we go. You're watching me pull open my deck right now. Okay, there we are. So, pull off the top cellophane, pull off the bottom cellophane, and you can see that my deck is numbered 152 out of 500. Very nice number. And you'll also notice that it's sealed like old playing card decks were sealed. Playing card decks. But you'll also notice that it is a a tuck box. So what I'm going to do is, instead of breaking this nicely done seal, I'm going to open it from the bottom, which I can do for this deck. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my scissors. I don't know if you've learned this trick before, and very carefully, whoops, I'm putting it in backwards. There we go. Very carefully put it in. Run the dull side of the blade up against the tuck of the box and flip up. And then I'm going to do the same on the opposite side. And I just pulled it back down. Hopefully that won't be a big problem. Very carefully, gently pull the scissors in, and very gently and gingerly work the tuck box open. There we go. Okay, so minimal damage. I have not broken the seal, and the tuck box is in fairly good condition still. I'm sorry, excellent condition still. I have not done any damage to it, is what I think I'm trying to say. Now let's see if I can get the cards out of here. I don't know that the order, nope, okay, so the order is not the order that I would put them in. Let me put it in this is the order that I will put them in. So, just to show you the box once more, nice cardboard a slight linen texture to the cardboard on the outside. Nice design, lovely. Let me show you the back of, the back of the deck. The back of each card looks like the pattern on the box, which is something very typical for Artisan Tarot. And the cardstock, the cardstock is, as usual, magnificent. So, now if you're curious about size, let me pull out a standard US Games sized deck. And can I get it all on camera? Yes, I can. This is the size of the deck we're looking at right now, which is the FF Solessio. Now, you can see it's much smaller than a tarot-sized deck, and it's, I guess we call it bridge size. The Millennium deck that I'm using is even smaller than that, right? It's itty-bitty. Well, for my hands, it's itty-bitty. There are much ittier-bittier decks in the world, but for me, this is about as small as I would want to go. Okay, so we're going to start off with the Batelier. This is, again, a recreation of a type 2 Tarot de Marseille, and this is a recreation of the FF Solesio, Tarocco Piemontese, from Piemonte, from Piedmont area of Italy. And we can see this deck is going to be very, I think I would say a bluish deck. If I were to classify the quality of a deck, this is a very yellow and green deck. This is a very blue and gray deck, I think. You'll notice basically it's very similar, although we do have fewer items on the table of the Batelier, and it's not called Le Batelier, it's called Il Bagatto. Bagatto, it's Italian, right? So, card 1, beautifully done. I like that the shirt here is open on the Batelier, on our magician, yeah? Kind of a sexy little magician guy, right? We do have 4 legs on the table, which is different. Most Batelier TDM decks have only 3 legs on the magician's table. Here we've got 4, which is interesting. This cardstock is just lovely for the Artisan Tarot deck. La Papessa instead of, what happened? What did I do? Oh my God, I should go to Tarot timeout for having done that. I put the Papes in the wrong place. Okay, so here we have Papes. They're facing different directions, yes, but we do have a tiara on top of a tiara, a bishop's or a papal kind of crown on top of her. Both are holding open books. Both have the cloth behind. A much darker tone to this deck, right? Very interesting. Very bright colors, but very much a type 2 type of deck. Please forgive me, I apparently am attached to type 1, even though we're actually looking at closer to type 2, right? So here, the Empress, beautiful cards. Notice the difference here in the eagle on the shield, a very, almost, a sketch drawing of an eagle on the Solessio deck, whereas here we have a more common, this is fully drawn, but you know what I mean. This is a more the kind of image we would expect. This is a less expected image for the eagle on the shield. We don't have any background. Yeah, we don't have any floor here in the Empress. L'imperatrice, imperatrice. Probably I shouldn't try to do French and Italian at the same time. I'm much better with Italian. L'imperatore, we have here, looks much younger than the l'empereur in the Millennium deck. Also, the eagle is much more of a sketch drawing than the Tarot Millennium. But we've got almost everything. They are facing in different directions. Yeah, but they're both holding the scepter. The helmets are very different, but they're both sitting in the chair. We don't have the crossed leg here, which is interesting. No crossed leg in the Emperor. Il Papa, or Le Pape. No background for Il Papa, right? And we have a crozier instead of a cross for what the Il Papa is holding. Is that a very, very small mouth with a very, very long chin on Il Papa here in the Solesio deck? Interesting. You'll notice how small the two acolytes or visitors for Il Papa are compared to Il Papa himself. Here, they're smaller, but in the Solesio deck, they look much smaller, although they are tonsured. Colors, again, very dark, very muted colors in the Solesio deck. And here we have Amanti here for the Italian side, and for the French side, L'Amoureux. Oh, wait a second, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe this is going to be a little bit more of a type 1 and not a type 2. You see that the Cupid here is blindfolded. I wonder if I should have pulled out my type 1 deck. That may have been a mistake. Interesting. You see that the person in the center is holding the hands of both of the ladies in the Italian deck, Gli Amanti. Here, not so much, right? One lady has her hand on the central figure's shoulder. The other lady has her hand on the central figure's chest. The central figure is like, what the heck? What's going on here? No, that's probably not what's on his mind. That's what's on my mind. You also notice there aren't any decorative elements to the women's hair on the Italian deck, right? There are no flowers, there are no laurel wreaths. Both just have plain old natural hair. Interesting. Very interesting. And we go to La Carroza instead of Les Chariots. Okay, so type 2, type 1. This is very type 1. I made a mistake. I probably should have pulled out my type 1 deck. But isn't it interesting? It looks like there is no... Look at the cart. Now we have the wheels. We have the top banner with crinoline at the top. We see that the poles are covered with cloth. We have the very front of the chariot, and then you notice there's no bottom. It's like the figure here has no legs, and I don't know what's going on. Or is he sitting cross-legged in this thing here? Who knows? You see, there's no chariot back there. There are the wheels, but there's no chariot back there. We do have the horses going in different directions, which I like. We don't have any kind of indication of the crest or who made this deck, as we would often see in a type 2 deck. Interesting. Here we have Justice. Very similar. Swords are on opposite sides. We see that we cannot see through the... Well, what am I trying to say? What I'm trying to say is the color of the dishes on the scale is the same as the color used in the center of this, right? Whereas in this deck, the color of the scales, of the cups of the scales, and the space in between are colored differently. We're not really seeing through the cords holding the dishes, but they're colored a sky blue, which is an interesting choice, right? Here, it's all one color. Very interesting. And very interesting headpiece here. Okay, moving on to l'ermita. 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 They're facing different directions, but we've got the rod, we've got the light. We see light shining out of the lantern here in the Italian deck, which I kind of like. This hermit looks a lot happier than this hermit does to me. What do you think? Let me know in the comments below. Which hermit looks the most pleased with where he is at the moment? Now, we don't see the feet of this hermit, which is interesting, right? We see the full figure in the Millennium deck, but we don't see it in this Italian deck. And we see buttons. don't often see buttons on the clothes of the hermit that I recall, which is also interesting. Did I mention when this deck was produced? I think I did. It was produced in 1865, I believe. It's the late 1800s. Ruota di Fortuna. Oh, look, we've got an actual human here instead of a monkey or, well, let's see. So this would be the monkey probably. And instead of another kind of creature, we have a human creature going up. And instead of a sphinx, it looks like we've got a human figure sitting at the top too. Maybe this is Fortuna. It kind of looks like it could be the goddess Fortuna, maybe. We see both sides of the axle holding the wheel, which is commonly missing in a lot of TDM decks. Could this figure be a human too instead of a monkey? Kind of looks more like a human face with hair, doesn't it? So it looks like maybe a naked male figure maybe going up and a clothed female figure coming down, maybe? I don't know. Okay, so moving on to La Forza. La Forza. Very interesting lion, huh? We got the hat with the lemniscate, but the hat goes out of the frame. We've got some kind of a robe over her garment, it looks like. But one arm is out of the robe and one arm is in the robe. And look at the line work on the legs of this lion. Very interesting. And the color, how you got the gray here, the gold, and we have we would call maybe a quote unquote flesh tone, right? For an Italian deck, this deck has very rudimentary features and line work. A lot of the Italian decks have very, very fine, like etched plates that they used to produce their decks. This is a woodblock with very, very in some aspects, very rudimentary line work, and in other aspects, there's more detail than in some other cards as well. So it's a very interesting balance, I think. Moving on to La Peso. When I give my Italian introduction to my Hanged Man in the Moon series, I say, Ciao amici e benvenuti nella Peso sulla Luna. La Peso. Is it Le Pendu? La Peso. You'll notice La Peso has a shoe, Le Pendu is missing one. They both have the legs in the 4. Okay, this is definitely a Type 1 deck. I'm surprised. For a deck produced this late, I was almost sure it would have been a Type 2. But here we've got the hands of La Peso sticking up. Very cartoonish looking face, right? But interesting coloring on the poles going up, right? Notice it goes from yellow to green to gray, and here we go from green to gray to green again. Beautiful color work in this deck here by Artisan Tarot. And the unnamed card 13. Wow, this card 13 has a head of golden hair, right? You got a blonde skeleton with clothes on a little bit. Now, but the bones, there's no extra color to the bones in the Italian deck. Oftentimes there would be like a red spine or red bits to the bones of the skeleton. Here, it's all one flesh-colored flesh tone. Interesting scythe, and you notice we do have the heads, but the heads and the background are very interestingly there's no line around the face, right? There's no line around that face. Whereas we've got clear line work in the Millennium deck, there's no real line separating the face from the background. Right? It's just a lack of those vertical-ish lines, which is interesting. We've got plants down here. Whereas the hand and the foot, the hands I should say, and the foot, they all have lines around them, right? There are border lines. There's no borderline around the faces. Interesting. Okay, here we go with temperance. Animian, la temperanza. La temperanza, temperance. Facing other directions, we've got very interesting wings here. I like these wings. I like the flow of her dress. Well, they both flow. We don't have any floral decoration at the crown of the Temperance Angel in the Italian deck. But we do have open-toed sandals, which is interesting, whereas here we've got very closed-up sandals on the Millennium deck. Very beautiful. Very, very beautiful. And here we go with card 15, Il Diavolo, Le Diable. No naughty bits showing on the Italian deck, but we do have a face in the tummy. We have one hand held up and one hand held down, holding kind of a pitchfork with only two tines. Both of the imps have very loose ropes around their necks. Looks like their hands might be tied behind their backs, but we don't know for sure. No eyes on the knees, though. Looks like the devil here has bat wings, yes, and two little tufts of gray hair on their chin, which is not expected. Very interesting. Okay, I'm looking forward to see what the moon card is going to look like. Okay, look at this. We've got a very interesting tower card, yeah? It is called La Tour instead of La Maison Dieu, or some other Italian version of the house god, the house of God. We have two figures coming out of the tower, one falling, one perhaps crawling out. Now look at there's no celestial sphere from which this energy is protruding, right? But you'll notice that there's energy coming down and there's energy coming up out of the tower at the same time. It looks like there are flames coming out and there are flames coming down. Oftentimes, a Tarot de Marseille type 1 will look like all of the flames are coming out of the top of the tower. Whereas this one, we've got them coming in clearly both directions, if you ask me. We can see mountains in the background, which is interesting. We don't get much background or floor ground image in the Italian deck. We have it for Il Bagatto. We have it for La Papesa. Kind of. We lose it here on the side. Actually, we lose it for almost everything except for the Chariot has ground. Fortune card has ground. I wouldn't say that Peso has ground. Card 13 has ground. Okay, 14 and 15. Both Temperance and the Devil have ground. Here we clearly have ground for La Torre. We'll see how that goes. Ground might be more common for the rest of the deck. We'll see. So we're moving on to the star, Le Stelle. Le would be a plural, right? Now I don't know if the French is singular, but it looks to me like the Italian is plural, Le Stelle. We got the same number of, no, we have more stars. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 around one central star. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 around one central star. So we have an extra star here in the Italian deck. It looks like both pitchers of water are going into the water, whereas in the Millennium deck, it looks like one pot is pouring water into the water, one pot is pouring water on the ground. We have gray hair on this star figure, whereas we have blonde in many decks. That's not true. I've seen bright blue hair on this star card, so that is neither here nor there. You'll notice how clear the bird in the tree is here. The birds in the trees in the star card and many other decks is very, very small and far away. Here we've got color. We've got a head, wings, a body, the tail. It looks like a crown on the bird's head, all very clearly delineated. Very interesting. Okay, moving on to La Luna. La Luna. So in a type 1 deck, the moon would be front facing, but here it's side facing like it would be in a type 2 deck, so now I'm confused again. We got the two dogs. We got the crustacean coming out of the water. Here it looks like the crustacean is floating on the water, whereas in the Millennium deck they redrew it to make it very clear that this crustacean is just coming out. The head and the front claws are coming out of the water. The rest of the body is still in the water. Instead, we do have a much clearer distinction between the two towers in the Italian deck. This one's round, this one's squarish, this one has turrets, this one has spikes at the top. No windows in this tower, whereas the roundish looking tower does have one window. Very interesting. Okay, coming to the sun. Here comes the sun. Da 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 da. And we have two figures. These two figures look like they're dancing to me, which is, I think, a little common for Italian decks. Love the face on the sun, although the sun face does not look very happy to me. Looks a little bit, I don't know, angry or cold, like cold temperature cold. The expression on the sun's mouth looks, like I said, either angry or cold. We've got a gray wall in the background, which is interesting. Of course, in the Millennium deck, it's very, very colorful. Blue-grayish hair on the two. Now, are they children or are they not? Maybe these look like preteens rather than children to me. I don't know. What do you think? We've got olive, we've got two different colors of green on the ground, which is nice. Okay, so we're moving on to il giudizio, the judgment. And notice how okay, so we've got this band of cloud down here. We've got the wings here. And above the wings, I'm not really sure what that is. Is this different color cloud? What's up with that? We do have the rays of the divine energy, the divine rays coming from the clouds here, but only from this area to this area. Like there's a circle here that we just can't see. You know what I mean? Whereas here we've got a very clear circle and the rays coming out of the bottom of that circle. Here, it's not that clear, is it? Although we do have the three figures. Yeah, we have the two front-facing people outside of what is probably a tomb, and then the figure in the tomb rising up to the cry of the trumpet of the angel. The angel does have a halo on them, him, her, them. But again, like the Temperance Angel, this Millennium deck has a little red decoration right there at the top. Nothing in the Italian deck. Okay, and moving on to Il Mondo, Le Monde, Il Mondo. We got the four figures, right? We do seem to have an indication of ground that the androgynous figure, we gotta say it, this figure is very androgynous, is dancing on. Whereas in the Millennium deck, it seems very much a female figure, but maybe not. But still, the body looks very female to me. Whereas this body looks very androgynous in the Italian deck. You'll notice that the four I'm not sure what we call them. Do you want to call them seraphim? Do we want to call them the four indications of the four winds? Do you want to call them the symbols for the zodiacal fixed signs? Whatever you want to call them. They're in different corners, right? The eagle, the angel, the lion, the bull, and the bull. The lion and the bull are at the bottom. The eagle and the angel are at the top, but on different sides. Just like the figure seems to be looking in different directions, right? And finally, oh, look at that. We've got a two of discs, which I was not expecting. Okay, so traditionally, well, you know probably that in most two of discs cards, there would be a banner here with the name of the producer on them, but there is no banner in this deck. And we have a card here that gives us the name of the deck, a restoration of the trump cards based on the tarot printed in Genoa. Okay, so yes, it was Genoa, Italy, by F.F. Solessio in 1865. I got that date correct. Hand restored and adapted by I'm sorry, my pronunciation is going to be horrible. Christina Condor, with the guidance from William Rader. We have their website address. Good thing for you to remember. This is the first edition. Good thing. It looks like they're planning more editions in the future. Lovely. Okay, let's get to the Fool card. Okay, so I just slapped this card at the back, not realizing there would be cards in between. So we've got the Fools going in different directions. Looks kind of like a cat to me in the Italian deck, Il Matto. We have a bag over the shoulder. The coloration of this deck is just lovely. It's so subtle, right? The way that this yellowish color fades into the gray. Now they do wonderful work over at Artisan Tarot. You notice the beads around the belt of Il Matto too. Interesting. What do you think? Now in a lot of Tarot de Marseille decks, it looks like the Il Matto, le mat, the pants or one of the leggings is usually falling down. We don't get any of that in the Italian deck. I like seeing that the leggings or the stockings on Il Matto in the Italian deck are of different color, which could mean that this Il Matto is maybe not as poor as some of the, poor as in lacking money, as in some decks. At a period of time, it was very fashionable to be wearing two different colored leggings. Now, this deck was produced in 1865, which means that period has passed. So maybe it means that this Fool is still way out of fashion, is what I'm trying to say. Yeah, that fashion has long since passed. Maybe, I don't know. But that's interesting. Lovely deck from Artisan Tarot, as usual. Yeah, their decks are always phenomenal. The cardstock is amazing. I don't know if you are Trump's only user, but it's very possible to read with Trump's only. Many people do. And let me show you how well this is going to shuffle, even with this very, very thin and durable cardstock. And this very small deck for my very large hands. Still, yeah, I can shuffle it pretty well. Let me see if I can do a 3-card pull for this one deck. Let's see. I don't often do Trump's only readings for on camera, I should say. I do them sometimes for myself, but not so much for others. So this is my first time doing. Is it my first time doing a Trump's only reading on camera? It might be. Let me try shuffling these a couple more times. And what I'm going to do, because this is only a 22-card deck, and I have not shuffled this very often, I'm going to ask the question, what would we benefit from knowing at this time? And I'm going to pull every 3rd card, knowing that this deck is not very well shuffled. You know what I mean? So, he will do it that way. So, what would we benefit from knowing? 1, 2, 3, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Okay. So it looks like I read line of sight. Yeah? And it looks like both the Il Papa and l'Imperatrice are both looking at gli amanti. Now, if I had more room on camera and I wanted to, I might pull another card for this side of gli amanti to see what this figure is choosing between if I decided that this were the central card of the spread. But instead, I'm going to look at these two figures focusing on this. So, there are a couple of ways of reading this, right? could say that Il Papa and l'Imperatrice are, I mean, one is definitely male, one is definitely female. They could be the two figures who got married, right? If we look at this storyboard yeah, they're both looking back towards when they were married and maybe reminiscing, and maybe we want to be, this might be a good time for us to look back at some of the good old days without getting stuck in reminiscing. You know, if we look back towards the good times we had, the good choices we've made, and the ones that were perhaps even blessed by the divine, and we bring that into the future, back into, not the future, but where we are now. That would be perhaps one way of reading these three cards together. Another way of reading these might be in a different way. Now, Il Papa is, it could be education, it could be the institutions of learning, of religion. It could be the official, when I want to say official, I want to say the more public face of spirituality and religion. Yeah, the bringing of spirit down publicly into the public sphere. And here we have the Imperatrice, which is creativity. It's the receptivity of the feminine ruler. It could also be pregnancy, leading to bringing us to a moment of choice. So, what would we benefit from being aware of here in another way of reading this might be that we want to allow ourselves to be open to receiving the divine, which exists everywhere and also exists in and is expressed through some more larger institutions of society. Maybe there are other aspects for us to be wary of, but the divine does work through public figures. Whether it's a guru, whether it's a priest, whether it's a shaman, whether it's some spiritual leader. We might benefit from receiving from that figure and taking that information, that wisdom, that knowledge, and using it to direct into creativity, into a receptive state of creativity. Now, we're receptive and creative at the same time. And that will lead us to a time of making a choice. So we've got this, we'll have a creative mission drive moving forward, and we'll be called to make a choice of what to do with it, perhaps. If that makes sense. So that's something for us to keep aware of, to look out for. Look out for information that we could be receiving from trusted and spiritually connected leaders that we have, I want to say faith in. But a lot of people don't really like that word so much because it's been twisted in modern society. And still, I'm going to use it. I'm going to stick with faith, that we have faith in, that we can trust. Not blindly, stupidly, but that we can trust. And we can move that energy, that information into our lives, into to feed our creativity, and realize that we will be called to make a choice of what to do with that. Okay? So, that's another way of reading, I think, these cards. So, friends, what are we going to do now? We're going to move on to this deck. And I don't really have a deck to compare this to because I don't think I even have any modern playing cards. I'm not a playing card kind of person. But let me unwrap the cellophane on this one as well. Let's see. Here we go. So, I believe this is also a bridge card sized deck. You'll see that I've got number 834 out of 1,000. We do have a seal here, but but I don't think this is a tuck box. No, this is not a tuck box. So I have a choice. I either rip the bottom or I cut the seal at the top. And I think I'm going to have to choose cutting the seal at the top on this deck, which is sad, so very sad. I'll do it off camera so that you don't have to see the knife making the slit. Oh. 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 Okay. I like keeping my seals intact. Like, you know the, what is it? The deck that I love and everybody else almost loves by Usi, it is the Pagan Otherworlds. Yeah, the Usi decks almost always have some kind of seal at the top, but you can almost always open them from the bottom and keep the seal sealed at the top. But this one, not so much. And because there was a broken seal, I think I can just pull this open without damaging the tuck box at all. Now, notice the inside of the deck, of the box, I should say, is very nice. The outside of the box, we got clubs. We got the Jack of Clubs, which I think is interesting. And it'll be, let me tell you why it is interesting when we get there. But hold that in your mind. Hold that in your thoughts. The Jack of Clubs is interesting in this deck. This is again, the Portrait de Paris. It's a playing card deck, a French playing card deck. The playing cards that we generally use in English-speaking countries are pretty much of French design. I don't know if you know that. Here we have the inside, beautiful inside of the tuck box. And I like when tuck boxes give you this option to be able to, okay, let me show you what I mean. Oh, I missed taking out one of the cards. Notice how this flap can bend back. Now, if this were cut out at the front, and maybe it is cut out in the front, we'll have to check. You can grab the deck like this and pull it out of the tuck box much more easily. And I still am leaving one card behind. Okay, so if I get rid of the seal, yes, there is a thumb hole here at the front as well. So it's easier to take the deck out of the box. Setting the box aside now. I'm not sure how this is ordered. So first, this is what the backs of the deck look like. Pretty much, it's a little bit wider than the FF Solesio deck by the same producers, Artisan Tarot. But the backs are very much like the inside of the box. Very nice design choice for the whole thing. And let me pull out, there it is, the title card. It says here, thank you for your purchase. Visit our website. Please join our course to learn how to interpret these cards. And there's a website here. This is a jack. A joker. This is in place of a joker from what I think I recall reading. The original deck did not have jokers in it. It had all the rest of the cards, but no jokers. Like we would, oh, here, just a second. Oh, no, this is not. This is just a title card. So, the jokers here are at the back. And we have two of them, and this is to take the place of the joker, and it was designed by Artisan Tarot. So if you use jokers in your playing card readings or just playing with playing cards, we have two jokers and they're dogs. One with a red collar, one with looks like a black collar, right? Nicely done. And let's move into this deck. Starting off with the Ace of Spades, which is fine. It would have been nice to have started off with a court card. Because this is a playing card deck, let's see, I'm trying to get my thing restarted. Because this is a playing card deck, what am I trying to say? There are only three courts, right? There are only three courts. There is the King, the Queen, and the Knight, or the Knave. What do we call them? The Jack, right? The King, the Queen, and the Jack. And I'm trying to find the information here on this deck. Okay, so this deck was originally created in, I believe, Paris between 1735 and 1751 by J. Triolier. J. Triolier is the creator of this deck from Paris. And interesting thing is that you'll notice that there are differences in the shape of the suits. What do I mean? So, for example, the shape of this spade and other spades is going to be slightly different because they were all hand done. It's not one template, one that was used over and over and over again. They were all done by hand, from what I was told. So you'll notice that this spade and this spade are slightly different, right? Can you notice that? So 2 of spades, the 3 of spades, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So we've got 2 rows of 4 and 1 in the center for the 9, and then the 10 of spades. Now here comes one interesting thing, yeah? You'll notice that this looks like a page to me of, well, okay, so it's the spades would be the épée, the swords, but there's no sword for this figure. It doesn't look like a knight because there's no horse to me. I mean, to you too, but if it were a knight, I would think of this figure as having a horse, but there's no horse, so that makes me think of a page. And we have this name here, Hozier, maybe, Hozier. The clothes are beautifully drawn in the court cards here. The Jack of Spades. The Queen of Spades is Pallas. Now, what are these names? These names are real and also mythical figures that people of that time would have known, like Pallas is probably Pallas. Pallas might be another name for Minerva, I believe. Pallas Minerva. Let me see if I can double check that for us. Just a moment. My trusted little companion here has decided to stop being friendly for me. Just a second. Pallas. Yes. Yeah, Pallas is a Greek goddess. Oh no, okay, not Minerva. Pallas was, according to Hesiod, okay, so the Pallas could be a Titan, or Pallas could be, was most often described as the daughter of the sea god Triton, thus a granddaughter of Poseidon and Amphitrite. So this is a mythological figure, is what I'm trying to say. And then we've got David, I think the biblical David, as in King David from the Old Testament. But again, the detail, how intricately the clothes are drawn. Although, gotta say, this king has a very oddly shaped body, right? The Jack, the page, whatever you want to call this figure, Hozier, the body is very common, normally proportioned. The head, the torso is very, as we might say, truncated for these proportionally much longer legs. Very odd, very, very odd. And then we go into the diamonds, yeah? The diamonds. I think the differences in the shapes of the diamonds will be clearer than the spades, perhaps. But can you see how this diamond and this diamond are slightly different? That's intentional. That is intentional. The recreation intentionally is preserving those differences, which is very nice. The cardstock is equally magnificent for this deck, the 5. Linen, strong core, easy to shuffle. very thin, durable. Keep it away from water though. I'm just saying, keep it away from water. It'll dry back up nicely, but still, I'd say keep it away from water. So we have, what, 6, 7? This is 8. You'll notice there are no numbers on the deck, but frankly, if you can't count up to 10, I'm just saying. Here we have 9. 2 rows of 4 plus 1 in the center gives us 9, and then 10. And here is the Jack of Diamonds, which would be I think the page of coins if I were reading TDM style. But, some people have different ideas about reading playing cards. Some people say, yeah, just read it like a TDM deck. For me, I wouldn't do that personally. But I'm not saying you're wrong if you do it that way. I'm just saying for me, I would not read it that way. I would definitely not read it the same way I would read, for example, a Smith-Waite deck either, or a Thoth deck. To me, there's a very different way of reading playing cards, and I don't know that way. So who knows? Maybe having this deck, I will start learning to read playing cards someday. My grandmother read playing cards. I know that. Maybe it's time for me to start thinking about that. So here for the Jack, we have Hector. The Hector of mythology, which would be, I think, Hercules. Are Hector and Hercules the same? I don't think so. See, my mythology is all scrambled right now. We have Rachel. I think Rachel from the Bible, in the Queen of Diamonds. And the King of Diamonds is Caesar, who I think is supposed to be Julius Caesar, although the picture doesn't look like Julius Caesar, I know. But it also looks like this king also has a truncated torso. Doesn't it look like this would be the torso and these would be the legs? Interesting. Although the hand is large and down here, I don't know. The kings are proportionally kind of odd to me. Not that saying that Artisan Tarot has done something wrong. This is the way it would look in the original deck. But the original deck, there's something odd about the kings. Oh, here's a king that doesn't look so odd, although the head's kind of big. The King of Clubs. Have Alexander the Great, probably the Greek. And you'll notice the dog here off on the side. That's an interesting touch. What's on the shield for this King of Diamonds? Does that look like Minerva's helmet to you? Kind of looks like Minerva's helmet to me. Also known as Athena in the Greek tradition, right? And here we have the Queen of Clubs, which is Arjan. I don't know who that is. And here we have what I was saying as the interesting Jack or Page or Knight, whatever you want to call him, the Jack of Clubs. There is no famous person, like a mythological person, indicated on this card. We have G. Paris, which is one of the producers of the deck. And then here we have L. Triolier, another one of the producers of the deck. We have the producers of the deck on the Jack of Clubs card rather than one of the mythological figures named here. Or people from history, like Alexander the Great, person from history. Julius Caesar, person from history. The goddess Pallas, mythology, right? And you make your decision about King David from the Bible. I'm not going to tell you whether you should believe King David is a historical figure or somebody from mythology. For me, well, if you want to know, let me know in the comments below. Okay, so 10 of clubs. Here we go. We're starting to go backwards. 9 of clubs. 8 of clubs. 7 of clubs. Can you see the differences between the clubs here? Notice how thin this bottom is and how these bottoms are thicker and this one's even thinner. I like that attention to difference and detail in this deck. 6 of clubs. 5 of clubs. 4 of clubs. This deck would not be difficult to read without the numbers stuck on there, I think. 2 of clubs. Ace or 1 of clubs. And here we have the king of... Interesting. Okay, so this would be heart. Oh, hearts. There's the heart. I'm so silly. There's the heart right there. Why did I have trouble finding that? And this is Charles, probably the French King Charles, perhaps. Interesting. This king also, again, looks out in poor proportion. These legs are too long for the body and the head. The queen is Judith, which might be Judith from the Bible. Beautiful. The queens, I think, are the best, the most attractive of the court cards in this deck. Although the jacks are pretty nice too. And this jack is called La Hire. I don't know. I'm sorry, I do not know who that is. And then we have the 10 of hearts, the 9 of hearts, the 8 of hearts, the 7 of hearts. Let me give you a clear shot of that. The 6 of hearts, the 5 of hearts, the 4 of hearts, the 3 of hearts, the 2 of hearts, and finally the ace of hearts. So friends, that is the Portrait de Paris. I'll show you how it shuffles just in case you're curious, because it is a thicker deck than the Trumps Only deck. But you know what? This cardstock, like I said, it's a dream. Look at how wonderfully that riffle shuffles. Straight out of the box, right? Let me just give you one more look at that. It's got a phenomenal riffle shuffle, right? And let's see how it overhands, just in case you are an overhand shuffler. I'm not going to read with this deck because, as I say, I don't read playing cards, at least not yet. But yeah, linen cardstock. Can you hear that card on card swishing sound? It's wonderful. Artisan Tarot makes the best to shuffle decks out there. There it is. So that is the playing card deck called Portrait of Paris, or Jeu de cartes au Portrait de Paris. And here is the Trumps Only deck that we just saw. Now they sent me one more thing. Let's see. Here's the Trumps Only. See how much smaller that deck looks? I mean, as far as height goes. They sent me this, and I don't know what this is yet. I have not opened it up. On the back, I can see that it was produced by Enrique Enriquez. I assume that would make him the author of this book. Look up. Doomed to our own devices, we go outside and let ourselves be steered by the sky. We milk the stars, but it is the birds that speak. Their flight is a sign of folly that lets us tread the stretch between beauty and madness. Pyrotechnics. Hastings. Ere is this first skin, we look up from within. So I think this is a book of short essays, maybe? The wind's marrow. A white plastic bag spins in the air at the mercy of the wind. When black plastic bags lie twisted on the sidewalk, we mistake them for dead starlings. So this feels like a text of, aside from looking at the stars, humans have a series of writings. Very lovely gift. I'll have to read it separately, but I don't think it's necessarily associated with a deck, right? I think these are perhaps the musings of Enrique Enriquez, and let me tell you, Enrique Enriquez is one of the best teachers for especially Tarot de Marseille system decks. Just phenomenal. So check him out. Friends, here we are at the end. Thank you for being here on this journey with me. Thank you for exploring these 2 decks with me, and I hope that you got something out of it. If you want a reading from me, my email address is below. Send an email to thehangedmaninthemoon@gmail.com and we'll get you a reading. Thank you for hitting the thumbs up button. It really helps the channel. And subscribe if you haven't subscribed. Friends, here we are. Thank you very much. And now, as always, I wish you love, joy, well-being, and pure awareness. Thank you.